Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world tonight. This is Grant Cameron, and this is the second take on a presentation I'm calling the Laughlin Conference Weirdness. I taped this last night, and when you're dealing with the paranormal, it got weird, and as I'll show you in a minute, the whole presentation was messed up for the second time. So I had to do this again. So what I'm going to do this in sections so that I don't have to go an hour into this presentation and then find out it's not usable. So we'll do this in little sections, and I'll explain what's going on, what's happened, and some pretty interesting stories. So let's begin. Last night I did the presentation, and when I played it back, this is what I got. This is a couple of screenshots from the presentation, and as you can see, the whole thing was totally blurred out. Now, a lot of skeptics, left brain people will say, well, your camera was not working. It's blurry. You didn't clean the camera on your computer. Well, this is done with a share. There's no camera involved at all. And yet the presentation, this is one, here's another slide. Just giving you some examples through the presentation. The whole presentation looked like this. The audio was okay, but the whole, all the photographs, all the video was blurred. So it was totally unusable. So I've had to do this again. Here's another photo, the final one I'll show from that presentation last night. And you can see whatever happened. I looked up on Zoom today. I could not find any reason why this kind of thing should happen on a screen share. And that's why I say that I'm going to do this in little sections to make sure that I don't have to do the whole 1 hour plus presentation and then find out it's useless again. So here's the presentation. Hopefully it works. It actually starts back in Boulder, Colorado, and before Laughlin. This was an event, and these are the people coming into this event. This is at the University of Colorado in the law building in their big theater. And it was reduced in attendance at that because there was a giant Colorado football game on. You couldn't get parking. And if you could get parking, it was like $30 to park. And so basically, they didn't even charge people to come in, but there's still quite a few people, but it was affected. Now, it was during that lecture that I gave this discussion about what may be causing this weirdness to go on. I gave a lecture on Apports and manifestation. And I will explain later on in the lecture what this is, but it's weird things that happen around experiencers. They happen in poltergeist cases with kids. They happen in seances, physical manifestation, or physical mediumship, stuff like that. And so I gave that presentation there, and it actually seemed to trigger a number of incidents. One was Paul Sperry. I was staying at Paul Sperry's house, and he tells the story of trying to get this, he's looking for this drink in the refrigerator, looks through again and again and again, can't find it, closes the fridge, goes and gets his wife, Marianne, says, where did that go? They open up the fridge, and it's sitting right in front of the fridge, right where it was very obvious. So that was the first sort of apport manifestation, bizarreness that happened. And another one that happened, one of the people at this lecture had gone home. He came to Laughlin to the conference as well, and told me that he went home after the lecture, and he was pulling out a drawer in his bedroom. And as he was pulling the drawer out, he heard a bunch of coins falling inside the drawer, opened it up, and there was a bunch of quarters and nickels inside the drawer. He also stated that when he was at Laughlin, coming off the elevator, there was a coin right in the middle of the floor. Now, that one may just have been a coin that someone dropped, and it just happened to roll into direct line of the elevator, because these apport manifestations usually are very centered. They are right where you have to walk over them. They're not really over on the side or anything like that. But this could have been accident. So these kind of things started to happen after the Colorado lecture. Now, at the Colorado lecture, there was a number of speakers there. I was there, and this whole weirdness thing starts on the Thursday before the conference. The conference runs from Friday to Sunday, and everything's going along okay. Nothing really weird happens until I go to load my presentation. The conference took place at the Aquarius Hotel, where a number of UFO conferences have taken place over the years. It's a beautiful place. It's right along the Colorado River on the Nevada side of the river, and on the right-hand side there you'll see Arizona. That's Bullhead City, Bullhead, Arizona, and you see the little bridge going across there. So it's on the river. It's a very beautiful place. They have 2 towers, and you can see the reflection of the one tower off the other tower. It's a pretty big casino hotel where this event is held. And as I said, it's on the Colorado River. You have the palm trees. It's very warm and beautiful water. You even have a wall. This is one of the walls outside the casino, on the front side of the casino, where you see they're playing off the fact that we have these UFO conferences there every year. So you have the UFOs that were painted on one of the walls outside the casino. The event was contained, a cocktail party, and they had a Sinatra lookalike who was pretty good at the big cocktail party, and you had your buffet dinner and stuff. And this is the room that the event happened, and the person who was of interest is in the top, in the sort of the white bluish shirt there on the right hand side beside my assistant Desta. That's Tom Wood, who plays a big part of this whole story I'm going to tell you. He's the guy that's in charge of the entire setup, the audio visual, the taping, all that material he's sort of the guy that runs the whole thing. And what you can see from this is an entire day setup to get this conference in line, to set the whole thing up. And they have 8 people working on the backside of this conference to set this thing up. So Tom Wood is the guy in the back, and he gets involved in this whole incident. Basically what happens is on the Thursday before the conference starts, all the speakers are required to come up and to load their presentation onto the computer. So you'll see Tom is working there with the speakers and to load their presentation. So I go up and they're busy here working, so I don't load it at that point. I come back a couple of times to load the presentation, and when I load it, that's when everything sort of went crazy. But you put your thing in PowerPoint. I'm using PowerPoint 2016. They used PowerPoint 2016, so there's no problem there. The other thing that happens is that it's done to understand what happened, you have to understand sort of how PowerPoint works. There's a 4:3 slide, which is a standard slide that will be shown on a screen. And then there's a 16:9 slide, which is a widescreen shot. So you either build your PowerPoint in 4:3 or 16:9. And I know that StarworksUSA, which is the conference here, which is run by Paola Harris, uses 16:9. And I know that because I actually had to redo a presentation a couple of years ago because I had it in the wrong format. So you either build it in one or the other. You can't build it in both. And that's critically important to know about how PowerPoint works. So I'm building the entire presentation in 16:9 widescreen, and I come back in the evening and I load it, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now here's me talking with Russell Targ, who was one of the speakers there. Here's the sort of the back end before they're finished. This is sort of the screens and the all the audio visual equipment. I call these guys the wizards behind the curtain. They're not quite set up. They still have a lot of material to put on, set up in computers and stuff. But these are the guys that help you actually put your presentation together. So you load it on there, and they sort of take it from there once it's on the computer. Here's a photograph of the sort of the courtyard on the riverside of the Aquarius Hotel, taken from the top of the parkade. Here is one of the other speakers was Jim Penniston, who spoke at the event. And there's my assistant, Desta, who luckily took a lot of photographs, so I get to use all these photographs. But Jim talked about his event, about getting the sort of the binary download thing as he touched the craft at Rendlesham Forest. So there was a number of these sort of high-level speakers that were there. Here's Jim Penniston's books. He showed a number of the books on his presentation and the notes that he had taken, detailing different parts of the Rendlesham Forest case. Here's the writing, the glyphs that he saw on the side of the craft. And so this is basically one. I'm only going to do a couple of the presentations, sort of highlight them, and then I'll get to the weirdness that involved my presentation. This is a speaker who was talking about technology, consciousness technology, and he had built some stuff in San Francisco. Here's where you can go in, you think of a color, and the color will light up in this this event. And apparently had people line up around down the block and around the corner to test this thing out. Here he is talking with Russell Targ about this consciousness technology. Here I am again talking to Russell Targ. Russell Targ gave a lecture, and I actually, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually got pretty close on this thing. He showed a sort of a covered up object underneath the podium that he showed, which gave you sort of the size of the thing, but you couldn't tell what it was. And it was a remote viewing experiment. And basically I got the round thing at the end. I got 4 pieces of metal. And if you see the handle, it's actually metal, which is 4 pieces. It looks like 4 pieces of metal. I thought it was like a guitar, like 4 metal strings. I got the wood and the bizarre sort of pattern in the this sort of a oil catcher thing that he's showing here, that sort of star pattern. I got that, and so did my assistant Desta Barnaby, and it was kind of weird because we both had drawn not a star, but like a starfish, which was kind of weird. So this was the target that he gave, and I'm usually not really close on this kind of stuff, but I actually was kind of surprised that I had most of the elements of the thing. Here's Sid Goldberg, and this starts the whole segment with Uri Geller, and I will cut it off here. I will be back in a second with the rest of the presentation. I'm just going to make sure now that this presentation is working, and we will continue in a moment.